Welcome back to another edition of Tux Traveler. This is me and a cat. Today we are going to talk about finances in the van life. This is a question that oftentimes people get. Now, I am not one of the people that have logged everything to give you an exact breakdown and throw on the screen, it cost me this and this and this and this. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to give you a few generalities and talk about the finances and what account that might make. Now, I'm still at camp, so this is going to be kind of a short and rambly video. I have been cooking for like 40 people every day, and it's been really tiring. In fact, I'm completely surprised I have time to do a video today, but we got everything done for the day. I have a couple hours of freedom. All right, but I'm enjoying myself tremendously. All right, so let's go ahead and break this down first. Let's talk about what I used to pay before. Now, if you have a paid off house, you're going to probably spend a little bit more money unless you get a paid off van or something. In my case, I rented for a period of time. There was a time I had my own house, but I gave that back. And what I did is I'm going to go back and I'm going to talk about just the life for the past 8 years. I've rented, I paid a total of $1,260. That's rent, water, and electric is what I had to pay. And so if you add on like renter's insurance or something, it'd be like next to $1,300 a month. And so that's pretty expensive. That might be really cheap from your city. That might be really expensive. It's a fairly expensive place in State College where I lived and the surrounding area. The van, to contrast, now, because I had some very specific requirements, like I need to be able to stand up, I need to make all my computer systems work, I need to make sure I'm very comfortable, that I'm not going to be like, I gotta get out of this van, this sucks. I had to make sure all that stuff was taken care of. And so I bought a bigger vehicle, and I bought one that I knew was newer, more reliable. And so I spent more money on a van than most people would. I think I spent like 25, 30 on the van, and I put about, I think it was like 30, and I put about 10,000 in the build. And I did have to finance a little of that. Now, I was debt-free prior to getting into the van, and I looked at it and said, you know what, as much as I would love to do everything debt-free, I don't want to wait another 5 years while I save up enough money. All right, and so I said, let's just go ahead and pull the trigger, because it was a good time to move. Rent was just going up. The town I'm in, State College is getting crazier. It's like, I just want to get out, and I also want to get out and experience the world while I'm still young enough to experience it. If I find a nice hike on the side of the road, I don't want to be too old and too tired to hike it. And so I wanted to get out there and do that. I looked at everything and said, it's going to cost about the same, even if I finance it. Now, of course, as a general rule, I don't like borrowing money at all. And I certainly don't like borrowing money on vehicles, which can go downhill in cost fast. Because this is built out, it might be more valuable than what I bought it for. I just don't know for sure. But it is a good, competent camper van in any case. So I'm paying about $868 a month for my things. That includes my storage. That includes the van. So the storage and the van, all of that's in there, is going to be there. If we add on the fact that I'm still paying for some of the build stuff, maybe you can bring the cost up to $1,000 per month of payments and things like that, which is still a little bit of a break even. And then, of course, we have gas. Now, I'm not, for the most part, spending a significant amount more on gas than I did when I had the apartment, except for the fact that gas prices pretty much doubled under Sleepy Man and White House. But that, I don't know. We'll leave the politics off of this channel. Let's talk, though, about what you can do about your gas mileage. First and foremost, if you're traveling on the East Coast, you're going to be spending more money in gas than on the West Coast. The reason is there are a lot fewer places that you can stay for free on the East Coast than there are on the West, which means you're spending more time in rest areas, you're spending more time in Walmart parking lots, more time in places that you can kind of roll in late at night, you can kind of stay overnight, but you kind of got to be gone really early in the morning. And so it means a lot more moving. You're going to be spending more money in gas on the East Coast. Once you cross that Mississippi River, there's a lot of good BLM land out there that you could just camp on for 2 weeks at a time, perfectly legally. You'll get out to a spot, you'll kind of stay there. You won't move anywhere for a few days. You'll jump into the vehicle, run off for supplies, get a little bit of gas. Maybe you'll move on to the next BLM site. Like, for example, I spent about a month in the state of Arizona, and in that month I spent in Arizona, I really only drove about 300 miles. So that's 1 tank of gas. So you're not necessarily spending more money in gas just because you're living in a vehicle. It depends on where you're living and how you are doing it. Another factor is eating out. I personally don't like to eat out a lot. I do typically eat out once a week. That's about it. And actually on the road, I didn't really do that. Just when I'm in a place like State College where it's the boring monotony, because it's the boring monotony that makes me want to, okay, it's Saturday, let's go out and get something to eat. But for the most part, I don't usually like doing that. I cook all my food fresh. I do have to buy more food more frequently or eat more processed food. Those are 2 things to keep in mind. Because of my setup, I don't generally waste a lot of food. I don't really throw food away. I did the video about the vacuum sealer. One of the best things, if you're moving into a van, get yourself a vacuum sealer, because I can buy fresh chicken, vacuum seal it. That chicken is good for up to 2 weeks without having to freeze it. No problems at all. You take that same thing without the vacuum sealer, you open up that fresh chicken, you have 3 days to eat it before it needs to be thrown away. And so I don't eat out a lot, and so that saves a lot of costs. I make my own coffee. I make my own breakfast. I don't eat lunch, generally. I make my own dinner. So my food costs, I would say they went up slightly in that when I had the apartment, I would buy bigger, bulkier items. I'd buy a family-sized pack of chicken, go home that one day, freeze it all at once. So I'm spending a little bit less on things like chicken and stuff like that. On the road, I can only buy smaller packs. I'm spending a little bit more, but it's not more than like 10 or 20% more for food. So overall, the costs are about the same. So if you're thinking in van life, I want to get out there and maybe I want to save a lot of money so you get into van life. It's not necessarily a big cost savings. Some people think that it's going to be a lot cheaper because you're living on the road. Well, if you have a payment, it's not going to be a lot cheaper. If you can do it all without a payment, it's going to be a lot cheaper. So, for sure. But some people say, well, I would love to do that. I can't really afford it. It's not significantly more expensive. For me, van life is about a break even. I don't think any month to month I'm spending significant amounts more or less in the van versus in the apartment. Especially since I lived in a place that apartments are extremely expensive. Also, you don't have to get a van as large as mine is. If you get a small minivan and drop $7,000 on it, you can probably do that in cash or significantly slower payment than I'm paying. But in my case, I needed something that I could build into a really good mobile office that I'd be comfortable in, not a place that I'm all cramped into. And you hear the expression, many people live out of the van. I generally live in the van. I don't set up a place and open up a big old camping spot. For me, it looks like some guy just parked his car on the van and on the road and took off. But I'm usually in there working. I might have the door open. That's about it. But I don't really set up camp in terms of getting someplace and pulling out a bunch of stuff and living out of the van. I live in the van. That's a little bit different. If you can't live in the van, you got to live out of the van. You're going to have a little bit different costs and things like that. But for the most part, your costs are about the same. You get a very similar break-even point. In my case, if you do it cheaper, you can do it a lot cheaper. You can save money. You can do it more expensive if you're traveling all over the place. In my case, I kind of look at the budget, look at the finances, decide where I'm at, where I'm going. And I could spend several months just moving a few thousand miles. In fact, I did that. I dropped about $1,000 in gas, maybe, getting from Pennsylvania to Wyoming in 1 week. And I don't think it was that much. It was like 500. And then from there, I took it really slow. And from there, I went really slow. I went from November, I guess it was November and December, to go from November or December to go from Utah, little bit in Arizona, but Utah, Nevada, and California. But then I went from January to March, just going down to Florida. So I was able to spend a lot of distance over a lot of time, which meant spending a lot less money in gas. So overall, the costs are not significantly more. In my case, they're not significantly less because I had to finance a lot of my build. If you don't have to, that's the case. Now, after about 4 years, when I have everything paid down and every bit of money can go into something else, or who knows, if I make start making a lot of money on this YouTube channel, for example, if we get this thing to monetization and are able to dump a lot more money onto the van or the build or whatever else to get things paid off faster, hey, that is a possibility. And if that happens to occur, I'll let you know how it changes if you're completely debt-free and still making the same amount of money. But those are the factors to keep in mind. It's not significantly more expensive. It's not significantly cheaper how I'm doing it. You have to decide for yourself how you're going to run your van life. But those are kind of my thoughts, and I'm going to stop here before I keep rambling on and on. I'm kind of getting tired, and with that, we'll be back to some regular videos next week. The next video should be the beginning of my phases for my next big road trip, which was I spent a month up in Maine, and I'm going to talk about all the different places I went up there. We're going to get at least five or more videos out of my trip to Maine. So we'll go ahead and get a chance to see up there. Maybe we'll throw in some cooking stuff in there. Few other odds and ends, and who knows, maybe I'll throw in the video clips where I went from the big old bearded mountain man to the clean shaven, back down to the clean shaven me. I don't really like the beard much, but I know a lot of you guys did. Anyway, there's my thoughts. Thanks for coming along on this crazy rambly video, and we'll be back with some travel next week. Thanks for watching, everybody. Subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so. Hit that notification bell. Share this video far and wide. Let's see if we can cross that monetization level this year. That's going to be 1,000 subscribers. So we need about, I think about 300 more. I think we're close to 700 subscribers after 1 year. And we need to get about double the viewership. A little less than double the viewership. So share this video far and wide. Tell your friends, and we'll see if we can cross that and pay this van off a little faster. That'd be awesome. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you a little bit further down the road.